About 8 years ago, I was finishing up my master's degree at the University of Cambridge, studying Churchill, and I'm over in England. I have no money, so I can't come over for interviews, and I can't find a job, but I want to be in journalism. So I get a call that National Review, this conservative magazine, has an opening. And I say, well, it's not really my politics, but I'd love to be a reporter. And so I come over to National Review, come back to the States after I finish, and I start as a reporter at National Review covering the movement right, covering the conservative right of the Republican Party. It was like working in a way at Car and Driver. It was a trade magazine for Republicans. I covered insider stuff on the conservative movement and Republican politics. And now I cover the White House and Congress, very impressed, right? But my first assignment at National Review was the Sarah Palin book tour. No joke, you can look this up. But if you had told me 8 years ago that the Sarah Palin book tour would be the best prep ever for the Trump presidency, I would have told you to shove it. But it was true. Because I started getting these emails in 2010 from this guy named Steve Bannon. And he said, Costa, you're onto something with the Sarah Palin blog you have at National Review. She's really this populist superstar. And he invited me to come meet with him in 2010, a few months later, when he was at CPAC, the conservative gathering in Washington. And so I go to meet with this guy, Steve Bannon, and he starts telling me about how he dropped out of Hollywood, and he had shaggy hair, a beard, he was overweight, and he's showing these documentaries he had started to make in the basement of a hotel in Washington. And only about 10 college Republicans there in a room like this. No one's there watching Steve Bannon's documentaries. But this guy was kind of fascinating to me. I said, he really believes, and he kept talking to me about this worldview. I kept saying, why are you telling me all this? He said, you're the only reporters who will listen to me. And it's true, you look back, no one reviewed Bannon's documentaries, never in the mainstream press, and only at National Review, this trade publication for the right, would it get reviewed. But Steve Bannon became a friend source kind of person for me, and I found him an intriguing figure. I mean, he had a really interesting worldview, and his whole view back then, when no one cared at all about Steve Bannon, he wasn't running Breitbart even at the time. He was just this random documentary filmmaker who didn't look like he showered. And he would tell you that the global economy had broken the middle class to the point where populism could be truly potent in the United States. And even then, I kind of shrugged off Steve. But we kept in close touch. And he told me, I'm trying to get Palin to run in 2012. And I said, well, he said, I think celebrity populism, tying a celebrity political figure to populism that breaks apart the right-left dynamic in this country could truly be a powerful thing. And so since I was working at this magazine that actually cared a little bit about this kind of thing, I flew out to Iowa with Palin and Bannon in 2011. And Palin teases a run, as you may remember, in 2011. She thinks about it. And Bannon was so bitterly disappointed that Palin chose not to run. And he told me that it could have won in 2012. And he said, look at Rick Santorum's campaign. Everyone forgets about it because Romney beat him for the nomination. But Santorum was talking about working class people. He was talking about even infrastructure. He was talking about rebuilding the country. And he almost won the Republican nomination if he had done a little better in the Pennsylvania and Ohio primaries. And so Bannon is someone who's always kind of in my orbit as a reporter. And he truly believes in things like infrastructure, transportation. He thinks that the working left, that union members and others can be won over by Republicans if they can get away from this Paul Ryan orthodoxy, if they can get away from the conservative movement principles that have guided them for so long. Fast forward to 2013. Again, I get an assignment no one else wants. National Review gets a call from Donald J. Trump. Would you please talk to me? He asked National Review. No one wants the assignment. I said, I'll take it. So I go over to Trump Tower, and this begins this long odyssey I've had now for over the past 3 years of over 50 interviews with Donald Trump. Again, because no other reporter wanted to talk to him. And this goes on for a long time. People think I'm nuts. Even when I joined the Post says to me, why do you keep talking to Trump? I said, well, I think this populism thing, this nationalist instinct, could be real. And on HBO, John Oliver recently did a thing, like the first article ever written about Trump's run in 2016 was by me in 2013. And know what Trump talked to me about in that 2013 interview in June of 2013? Winning again, trade, immigration. We need to build more things in this country. He was talking about things back then. And one thing I learned about Trump is that he doesn't really have an ideology, but he has core beliefs. And if you look behind him in the Oval Office, there's one picture. There's no pictures of his grandchildren, no pictures of his wife, just one picture. to picture Fred Trump, his father. And that was the same picture that sat in front of him for 30, 40 years on the 26th floor of Trump Tower. And it's a black and white photo in a big frame. And Trump will tell you, every night at dinner, his father would scream and yell that the country was going to hell, and that we needed to build more things in this country, and we needed to win again, and we need to stop immigration from coming in. Of course, the Trumps were immigrants themselves. But so this is who Trump is. He's a Fred Trump politician, not really a Republican, not really a Democrat. The reason I kind of take you back to those two, Bannon and Trump, is I've known these people, now the president and the chief strategist, for a long time. And if anything, I can tell you, knowing them for so long, is that they are not Republicans at heart. They are, in Bannon's words, kind of a populist nationalist, and Trump's really a Trumpist. He wants what's best for Trump, he wants to win, and he's willing to change. And so as you think through these issues, think about how I think that the soul of this presidency is Bannon and Trump, and they do have a mind meld on a lot of these issues. But the challenge, I think, for your industry is, can these instincts that are really to build and to have $1 trillion infrastructure plan, remember that was proposed by Bannon, that's being floated through Bannon to Trump, can they survive in a Washington that's dominated by Republicans like Paul Ryan and Leader McConnell in the Senate? Because when Bannon talks about infrastructure privately within the White House, based on my reporting, he's open to spending. But when you talk about infrastructure with Republicans in many of these leadership positions, they want to talk about it in terms of billions of dollars in tax credits. And the question I always have as a reporter, and you may have too, is where is this needle going to end up? Can it truly be spending? Are they going to cut all the Tiger grants? Are they going to just get rid of everything that's been happening with the stimulus since then on infrastructure? Or can Trump be convinced by the Bannon side, the Peter Navarro side, he's an economic advisor to the president, to stick with some of the spending as they build toward the $1 trillion infrastructure? And it's really a political choice Trump has to make. And the problem for many people who want to see a robust infrastructure program is that as much as Bannon is truly at the heart of this presidency, he has only one orbit of influence around Trump. I think of Bannon as part of Stephen Miller from Jeff Sessions' office, now the senior policy advisor, Attorney General Sessions, Peter Navarro, who I mentioned. They're the populists who are open to non-ideological projects, especially when it comes to infrastructure. They even frame the wall, which you may disagree with, as an infrastructure project. They think about it in those terms. Because for Trump, as he looks ahead to 2020, and this is with my conversations with the top people at the White House, they want high growth and high employment. That's how they're going to win in 2020 in their view. And to get the high employment, infrastructure may be part of it. So your challenge is to be, how can you connect all these swirling impulses to an agenda and have it being White House driven by a certain wing in the White House? But there are other orbits of influence, and these other orbits could start to overpower the Bannon Sessions wing in the coming months. Because another thing I've always learned about Trump is he is truly able to move, and he plays people off of each other constantly, and he makes decisions if he feels necessary to cut people out. I was on the plane when Lewandowski was fired. I was backstage at the convention when Manafort was told he was about to go. Trump is rough. I've seen him up close on the plane, at Trump Tower, at his different golf clubs. This is a ruthless person. He can be extremely cruel. He's also one of the most politically charismatic people I've ever covered. The only person I've ever seen at his level is former President Bill Clinton. If he was here in the room, if you've never been to a Trump rally, you would understand. It's electric. He does have a certain power in terms of his communications, even though he can be very limited. He doesn't read books. He's not well briefed on policy. His gut instincts aren't really anything except what's best for him. And this is a powerful political talent. And then you have Jared Kushner, the senior advisor and also the son-in-law. He's there with Gary Cohn, the economic advisor. These are kind of the Democrats from New York who are in Trump's ear. And they're telling Trump to cool it on the social policy, to not go so far in infrastructure and spending in the way that Bannon may be open to. So you got Cohn, Kushner, Bannon, and Sessions and Stephen Miller. These are two orbits. Another orbit, of course, is the mainstream Republicans. Ryan Priebus, the chief of staff. Sean Spicer, the press secretary. They work very closely with McConnell and Ryan to try to keep Trump working on their terms. You see this especially with the health care debate. Trump has embraced the 2020 plan for phasing out Medicaid. He's embraced the House GOP plan to many effect. And then you have one more orbit of influence, and that is Vice President Pence. who is somewhat linked to the Ryan's previous wing of the White House, but he has Pence is really driven by his evangelical beliefs. He is someone who has a whole network onto his own. And so all these players are around Trump every day in the Oval Office. And I'm not sure exactly where the president is going to go throughout the rest of the year in terms of which wing. I do think infrastructure is one of the most fascinating ways to think through how Trump's thinking through his first year. Because everyone I talk to at the White House keeps saying, we're telling Trump, push it into 2018. And I say, why would Trump wait on infrastructure? And their view is, if he waits, we can push the Democrats who are up in vulnerable states in 2018. In essence, ahead of the election in 2018, to put a lot of gifts on the table, whether they're tax credits or spending projects, and tantalize the Democrats to come with us on infrastructure before the 2018 midterms. They don't see the need to do it now. I think Bannon wanted to do it. Remember, he floated the infrastructure plan in the Hollywood Reporter interview before Trump's even inaugurated. But it gets pushed back. Why is it pushed back? Because he's not the only orbit of influence around Trump. Speaker Ryan, Leader McConnell said we've got to move on health care first, and Ryan has spent his whole career working on tax reform. So you got this whole plan now coming out of the Congress where we're going to move on tax reform and we're going to move on health care first, infrastructure being pushed away. Because most of the congressional Republicans privately, look, Schuster wants to do a lot of things, and even Elaine Chao said in her testimony for Transportation Secretary that she's open to keeping most of these grants, even a lot of the Tiger grants. But the congressional Republicans aren't of that mind. So you have a lot of things in your favor, a lot of these instincts in some of these players. But if you look at how the agenda is how it's unfolded, this whole cascade is really what Ryan wants for now. Now, I talked to Senator Paul from Kentucky a couple days ago, and he thinks Trump could be turned. That we think it's going to be health care, then tax reform, then maybe infrastructure in late 2017, early 2018. But I think Paul made a smart point to me, and a few senators have made it to me privately, that this could change, because if Ryan can't whip the votes on health care, and you don't see Trump out there rallying for health care, do you? Who's in Kentucky yesterday? Not Trump. It was supposed to be Trump. It was Pence. Trump was at his golf club in Northern Virginia, having meetings of his own in private. Trump is supportive of the GOP health care plan, but you don't see him rallying to it. And when I asked Kelly and Conway and Bannon the other day, well, what do you think about Trump care? And they said, stop calling it Trump care, Costa. It's not Trump care. But we haven't seen the president fully get behind it. Why? Because he knows the votes may not be there. And Rand Paul tells me he thinks Trump could flip on health care in a second if he thinks Ryan's overselling his ability to get the votes behind it, especially if McConnell doesn't have the votes in the Senate. Maybe it falls apart. And Trump was telling the conservatives on Wednesday, I'm actually open, he said, based on my reporting and other outlets, to have this whole thing fall apart in terms of the current health care law and blame it on the Democrats ahead of 2018. So as you think through all these stories you're reading that infrastructure is being pushed down, remember that this is very fluid. And as Amy said very smartly, this is an independent president in many ways, and he's not driven by ideology. So a lot of things could change. And don't think the dynamics that are happening now are always going to be there. I think the key vulnerability for this group is going to be the budget, and Trump, because he's this independent president without an ideological compass, he wants to not touch the main drivers of long-term federal spending. Not touch Medicare, not touch Social Security. So that leaves you vulnerable with transportation spending, because he's proposing $54 billion in increase in defense, and he's looking at HUD, he's looking at transportation as a way to not with a scalpel, but with an axe, to get billions of dollars to help fund some of the spending increase for the military. The congressional Republicans are mostly comfortable with this. So I think you're going to have to pay attention this week when the hearings begin on infrastructure. What are they really talking about with this budget? Can it get through? Does Trump even really have a budget that has the votes? I'm doubtful about this. So if the votes aren't there, maybe this is just a lot of talk. And the other thing with infrastructure is really comes back to my original point is, are they going to create anything new? Can Bannon actually innovate here and follow through with his rhetoric? Is it just going to be tax credits? Are they going to steal money from the highway bill and just use that? Or can they actually come up with some new ways of Republicans thinking through spending? Because when I met Bannon back in 2010, 2011, what he would always talk to me about was his upbringing in Richmond, Virginia, blue-collar family, Irish Catholic, And he saw all the guys that go work on the railroads around him, they go work on the highways, these were good jobs. He thought those jobs had disappeared, and that's what drove him to leave the business community and go into politics. But does he have the political capital even within the White House to come through with some new, fresh ideas and infrastructure? I'm not sure. We're going to have to keep an eye on it. But I think right now, Bannon, because they don't want to touch Medicare and Social Security, and Ryan knows this, they are going to start looking at what Obama did in 09 and 10 with transportation and start taking away some of the spending programs. And I really think this is going to be White House driven, trying to balance the power with the Congress. I don't see much about Secretary Chow, with all respect, in terms of how she's really driving this conversation. To me, it's really about, is the White House going to get what it wants, or the Congress going to get what it wants? So I'll leave it there. But it's a fascinating time to be a reporter. And these people, it's a good example in life and politics. When you think people are out or can never make it, if you told me that this guy, Steve Bannon, with the beard and the vest in 2010, no one cared, no one wrote about him, that in less than 7 years, he'd be chief strategist for the President of the United States. It's crazy. I mean, see, the thing is, Bannon comes out of the campaign in late August 2016. Trump gets sick of Manafort, all this Russia stuff. And he works with the Mercer family, big Republican donor family. And they know Bannon, and they know Conway through Breitbart. And they say, bring on Conway, bring on Bannon to run the campaign. But a few months before that, I was on Bannon's radio show, because we're still always keeping in touch, and he wasn't working for Trump. He was skeptical of Trump even in the summer, whether this guy could win. And Bannon sees things bigger than Trump. He's not a Trump obsessive. There are some people around Trump who I'll leave their names out of this. They kind of worship Trump. He's a celebrity. They love him. They want to be around him. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened in their lives. Bannon was ready. I remember talking to him in the Vegas debate. Bannon was ready, if Trump lost, to continue going after Speaker Ryan, to continue this disruption project he had envisioned for his whole life, to connect Trump, or to connect conservatives here in the United States with Le Pen, with Nigel Farage in England. So Bannon has this worldview that he's trying to execute, and he has some allies within the White House. But Trump, to him, is a horse to ride politically. And just like he used to talk to me about Sarah Palin as a political horse to ride. I mean, it's something, he's not obsessed with Trump. He's trying to get true disruption through it. And you guys all may be vulnerable to that as well, because they'll cut some things just to cut through the administrative state, as he likes to say. But that doesn't mean that this is going to follow traditional dynamics and they're going to not come back with some kind of infrastructure program. I don't want to go on too long. Let's take your questions. Great to be here. Thank you.